You earn a good salary. On paper, you are doing everything right, living in a city known for opportunity, ambition, and high-paying careers. The buildings are modern, the streets are busy, the jobs are competitive, and the people around you all seem successful, focused, and moving fast. This place feels like the center of progress. Your paycheck is higher than average, your job title sounds impressive, and your career looks solid from the outside. Friends and family would say you've made it. But here's the strange part. Despite earning more than ever, money never seems to stay. Rent absorbs a massive portion of your income. Taxes quietly take another cut. Transportation, insurance, groceries, and basic services cost more than they should. And before you realize it, the month resets again. You're not irresponsible, you're not reckless, and you're not living extravagantly. Yet saving feels slow, progress feels invisible, and freedom feels further away than it should. And if this pressure feels familiar, pause for a second. It's not because you're bad with money, it's because this environment was never designed to let you feel ahead. Every raise feels smaller than expected, every bonus disappears faster than planned, and somehow the city keeps demanding more just to let you stay in place. So here's the question most people never stop to ask. If you're earning well, working hard, and following the rules, why does it still feel like you're running in place? In the next few minutes, we're going to break down the hidden cost of high-income cities. Not opinions, not motivation, but the numbers and structures that quietly turn good salaries into financial stagnation. Because sometimes the problem isn't how much you earn, it's where you're earning it. Marcos earns $108,000 a year. On paper, that puts him well above average, comfortably inside what most people would call a good income. He lives in a high-income city, works for a respectable company, and has a career that looks stable and promising from the outside. Everything appears aligned with success. But when the numbers are broken down, the picture changes fast. After federal and state taxes, his take-home pay drops significantly. Then rent alone consumes more than $3,200 a month for a small apartment close enough to his job to avoid a brutal commute. Transportation, insurance, groceries, basic services, and the invisible cost of living in an expensive city quietly stack up on each other. Nothing extravagant, nothing irresponsible, just normal life. By the end of the month, Marcos manages to save less than $300. Some months is less, some months is nothing at all. That means someone earning over $100,000 a year is saving at a rate that barely moves the needle. Progress exists on paper, but not in reality. He isn't failing and he isn't bad with money, he's simply paying a premium to exist where he lives. And this is the trap. High-income cities don't just cost more, they compress your financial future without making the pressure obvious. Now let's change only one variable. Not Marcos's job, not his skills, not his salary, just the city he lives in. Same $108,000 income, same role, same effort, but instead of a high-cost city, he moves to a mid-cost location, where housing, taxes, and daily expenses are dramatically lower. Rent drops by nearly half, transportation becomes cheaper, food costs less, and basic services no longer carry a luxury markup. Nothing about his lifestyle becomes extreme, just more efficient. Suddenly, Marcos isn't saving $300 a month anymore. He's saving $1,500 to $2,000 without working harder or earning a single extra dollar. That difference doesn't feel dramatic month to month, but over time, it becomes explosive. At $300 a month, wealth builds slowly and painfully. At $2,000 a month, compounding actually starts to matter. Over 10 years, that gap isn't a few $1,000s, it's hundreds of $1,000s in missed opportunity, delayed freedom, and postponed options. This is the kind of structural gap most people never see, and once you notice it, you start questioning everything you were told about income, effort, and success. This is why location is one of the most powerful financial levers most people ignore. It silently determines whether your salary builds wealth or just maintains survival. Same income, same person, same effort, radically different outcome. The most dangerous part of living in a high-income city is that the damage doesn't feel dramatic. It feels normal, shared, and socially accepted. Everyone around you is paying similar rent, facing similar costs and making similar trade-offs, so the pressure feels like part of adulthood, not a warning sign. When everyone is slightly stressed, slightly behind, and slightly dependent on their next paycheck, no one stops to question the structure itself. This environment creates a powerful illusion. If everyone else is managing, then this must simply be how life works at this level. You compare yourself sideways instead of forward, not against long-term freedom, but against peers who are just as constrained as you are. The city reinforces this mindset constantly. Expensive coffee becomes routine, high rent is framed as the price of opportunity, and financial stagnation is disguised as ambition. Over time, this normalization numbs your ability to detect the real cost, not just money, but flexibility, optionality, and control over your future. Nothing feels broken enough to demand change, yet nothing improves enough to feel free. That's how the trap survives, not through pain, but through familiarity. High-income cities don't just cost more in obvious ways, they apply an invisible tax that compounds quietly over time. Housing is the largest component, but it's far from the only one. Higher local taxes, elevated service costs, premium pricing on basics, and social pressure all stack together. This creates what looks like a successful lifestyle, but functions like a slow leak. Money enters consistently and exits just as efficiently. The problem isn't one big expense, it's the accumulation of many reasonable ones that leave no margin behind. When your savings rate is compressed, your timeline stretches. Retirement moves further away, risk becomes dangerous, and dependency on income increases. Two people earning the same salary can live radically different financial lives simply based on where they stand while earning it. One builds momentum, the other stays solvent but stuck. This is why geography isn't a background detail, it's an active financial variable that quietly determines whether your effort translates into progress. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear, it just lets it keep working against you.
If the math is so clear, why don't more people leave? Because the trap isn't just financial, it's psychological, social, and deeply emotional. Your career network is there. Your identity is tied to the city, and the idea of leaving feels like moving backward, even when the numbers say otherwise. High-income cities sell belonging along with opportunity. Your address becomes part of who you are, not just where you live. Leaving doesn't feel like optimization, it feels like loss. There's also fear of regret. What if you miss out, fall behind, or give up something that was supposed to pay off later? So people wait. One more year, one more promotion, one more raise, believing the equation will eventually flip. But while you wait, the cost keeps compounding. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to imagine alternatives, not because they're worse, but because familiarity feels safer than freedom you haven't experienced yet. That's how high-income cities don't just keep you poor, they keep you convinced that staying is the responsible choice. For most people, the realization doesn't come suddenly. It arrives slowly, through small frustrations that start connecting into a larger pattern. You notice that every raise feels absorbed, every bonus feels temporary, and every year of effort produces less visible progress than expected. You start running the numbers out of curiosity, not obsessively, but honestly, comparing what you earn with what you actually keep. That's when the gap becomes impossible to ignore. The problem was never motivation or discipline, it was leverage. You weren't missing information, you were optimizing inside a structure that was designed to limit outcomes. At that point, the question changes. It's no longer how do I earn more, but why does earning more not change anything? That question marks the turning point. Once asked, seriously, it can't be unasked. From there, continuing blindly becomes harder than facing the discomfort of change. The system only works while you don't stop to examine it. Awareness breaks the illusion that effort alone will solve a structural constraint. Escaping the geography trap doesn't require dramatic moves or reckless decisions. It requires treating location as a financial variable, not an identity. The first step is comparison, not emotionally, but numerically. Placing your current costs decide realistic alternatives. Lower housing, reduced taxes, cheaper services, and a calmer baseline can radically change what the same income produces. The goal isn't to downgrade life, it's to restore margin. Margin creates options. Options reduce fear. When your savings rate expands, timelines compress. 10 years of struggle can become 5 years of momentum. This is why many people who change locations describe the shift as immediate relief, not because life becomes perfect, but because the pressure finally eases. Same work, same effort, same income, different outcome. Geography doesn't make you wealthy by itself. It simply stops draining the value you're already creating. Once the drain is sealed, progress becomes visible again. At the end of the day, this isn't about cities being good or bad. It's about conscious trade-offs. Staying in a high-income city can make sense for some people at certain stages. The problem is staying by default, without calculation. Every location has a cost. The mistake is paying it blindly. When you understand what your city is truly charging you, you regain agency. You may decide to stay, but if you do, it's no longer a trap, it's a choice. And if you decide to move, the decision isn't failure, it's strategy. Freedom isn't about earning the highest salary possible, it's about keeping enough of what you earn to build something durable. The most powerful financial move isn't always a promotion, an investment, or a side hustle. Sometimes it's simply standing somewhere else while you work. If you feel like you're doing everything right and still falling behind, this isn't a motivation problem, it's a structural one. You weren't lazy, reckless, or irresponsible. You were playing a game where the rules quietly changed while you were busy working. High-income cities don't just cost more money, they cost time, options, and future freedom. They turn good salaries into maintenance mode, where every raise feels smaller and every year feels heavier instead of lighter. The truth is uncomfortable. Earning more doesn't automatically mean building wealth. Where you live, how your costs scale, and how much margin you keep matter more than most people are willing to admit. Once you understand this, you can't unsee it. You start questioning why certain places feel like opportunity but behave like financial quicksand. You start realizing that freedom isn't about earning more, it's about keeping control. This channel exists to break down these invisible structures, not with hype, not with shortcuts, but with clarity. If this video helped you see money, work, or success differently, you'll want to see what comes next. Subscribe and we'll keep decoding the systems that quietly shape your financial life. Because once you understand the structure, you stop running in circles and start choosing deliberately.